Hey everybody, it is time once again for the weekly Rahdo Recap, and this week my wife and I are at the beautiful Shipwreck Beach at the southern tip of Baja, and just outside of Cabo, about an hour I think outside of Cabo, and it's just absolutely lovely. And we've had the place almost to ourselves for most of the time, but this is the weekend and this is a place that locals like to come as well. So we are seeing some folks show up, and here's our beastie. We have just really been digging this spot so far, and I think you can see why. If you pay close attention in the background, you might see some whale spouts throughout this recap. If you're lucky, we've seen quite a few so far. Anyway though, folks, enough about the travelogue. You just want to hear about what's happened on the channel? Well, I am here to tell you about new videos that went up on Rahdo Runs Through, new videos that went up on other people's channels, and also a bunch of new games I have discovered, some of which might have been able to make it onto my anticipated games of 2024. Regardless, you know the drill, folks. Let's get going, starting with an exclusive video for backers of the show. I did my 2024 ramble all about board game anticipation. I covered tons of games that weren't in the top 10 anticipated that I did last week, including, folks, oh, I am very excited. I revealed details about a super secret game that has not been announced yet, but I did get clearance to talk about it a little bit. Just not publicly, so it's only basically for folks who support the show and get this advanced sneak peek. Folks, I've talked a bunch over the last couple weeks about games I'm anticipating for 2024. This game I am anticipating to be in my personal top 10 of all time. I'm pretty confident it's going to make the list. And when you learn about it, as more information becomes public, who the designers are, what the subject matter is, what the publisher is, what the gameplay is, it's going to be one of the greatest deck builders, probably the greatest deck builder of all time, and will probably punch its way into my top 10. I can't talk about it publicly, but if you are a supporter of the show, you can go check out the ramble where I talked for 80 minutes, all kinds of stuff, including some board game drama and other things too. But anyway, that was the big thing, and it's as a thank you for all of you to help keep Rahdo running. Now let's talk about what made it onto the channel for everybody to see. First of all, I did a run through of Marrakesh, the Camels and Nomads expansion, which is absolutely fantastic. It's rare that Stefan Feld does expansion, so whenever you see one from him, it's worth checking out. And this one so improves, so takes Marrakesh to the next level. There are elements in this that I would never play Marrakesh without. Also, I did a rapid review for Pyramido, and this has got to be one of the best tile layers that came out in 2023, but nobody is talking about it, and I really do hope it starts getting some more traction because it's really sharp. Now, Jen, I did find that the tile drafting was a little bit too cutthroat for us, but still the mechanisms are brilliant, and I really highly recommend Pyramido. I also did a couple of previews for games that are crowdfunding. First of all, we've got, Explorers of Navoria, which is just, it's a real rarity. It's a, what do you call it? Gateway style game that Jen and I actually enjoy. It's not too lightweight for us. And it's interesting, there's been a fair bit of controversy about this game on Board Game Geek, some more board game drama, with people saying that the art style is a blatant ripoff. It's plagiarism of Kyle Farron's work from Rude and Vast and all that. It's gotten so ubiquitous on Board Game Geek that Ian O'Toole, one of the premier artists in the industry, decided to post to set people straight. And I quote, "There are a number of artists that use a style that could be described as similar to Kyle's. While he definitely has a monopoly on it in the board game space, that general look is not his alone." And it's just been heartbreaking for me to sit on the sidelines because I'm a former video game designer myself. I've worked with a lot of artists. I understand how this works and how it's not plagiarism, it's not ripping off. And I'm glad to see that, again, one of the premier artists in the industry decided to step up to set the record straight. All of that aside, Explorers is a phenomenal game. You can go check out my preview to learn more. And I'm not done talking about it. I'll come back to it a little bit later. Oh, and then my other preview was for Stellar Drift, the Pull and Write, which is basically a new roll and write game, but you don't roll dice, you don't flip cards, instead you pull cubes out of a bag. And I really gotta say, I appreciate how this gives you a lot more what do you call it, a lot more control, because you can anticipate and, worry about probabilities. And on top of that, it's got to be one of the most thematically grounded roll and writes I've ever played. And it makes me wish more roll and writes, because roll and writes these days are becoming more and more spreadsheet simulated type stuff. But, a Stellar Drift shows a different way to do it. Okay, also we had the latest R&R show, episode 81. It was Chris, Ruel, Ray, and special guest Robert Geisinger talking about their most anticipated games of 2024. And I got on too. Since I'd already done my top 10 the previous week, I talked about some anticipated expansion. So you get to hear about a bunch of really great stuff. And folks, I'm always saying this, do not skip on the extended edition of the show. In the post show, there's a bunch of additional games. I talk about 5 additional, expansions, and the others do too. And Robert has so many amazing, heartwarming stories. I cannot recommend the full edition of the R&R enough. But, one more thing. Went up on the channel this week. It's my questions and answers episode 17. And there were some tough questions in this one, most notably about the Fox Experiment, a very, very hot game that's making a lot of top 10s of the year. And I seem to be the only one in board game media pointing out, am I the only one bothered by the animal cruelty in this game? But, talking about theme, I also, we talked about in the Q&A about ignoring theme or digging into theme. I did a quick list of the best crunchy but fast-playing Euro games for 2023. And, folks, I'm going to be recording my next Q&A in just a few days from now, probably in this lovely location, and I need more questions. Send them to email at questions@rahdo.com, and I hope to hear from you. So anyway, that's what went up on the channel this week, but now let's talk about some other folks who put stuff up on their channels too. It is January, so we're starting to see more and more channels do anticipation lists. I've watched a bunch of them, and three really stood out to me because they all had games that I had missed. And if I hadn't missed them, they might have made my personal top 10. I'm talking specifically about Amy and Maggie of Thinker Themer, Mick and Starla of Our Family Plays Games. Oh, and then also, 5 Games to Doomsday, which really, man, this channel deserves more love and attention. He is doing amazing things. I appeared on his podcast many, many years ago, but he had a top 5. And so all 3, I watched probably close to a dozen anticipation lists over the last week, folks. These were the 3 that really stood out, talking about games that nobody else is talking about. Hi there, and say hi to the folks who are coming for a lovely day at the beach. They're waving. Hi, hello. Alrighty, let's see, what else? Okay, so what else have we got? Eric Martin, the news guy of Board Game Geek, he put up a new video called Fitting More Furnace, or I think Fitting More Furnace into One Box, or something like that. And it was a very interesting video. It was a follow-up to a video that I missed, where he basically took Furnace, one of the best designs of modern years, and cut the box in half to try to save shelf space. And he had done this original video, and now he was revisiting, trying to deal with the fact that, he has an expansion, and how is he going to solve the problem? And while ostensibly that's what the video is about, it's really more of a deep dive into our obsessive-compulsive attitude about collecting games, and I really appreciated the underlying message. What else do we have? Dan from Chairman of the Board, he did a fantastic review of Havilandi, which was a new Reiner Knizia game that I haven't seen much coverage of, and I hadn't really been able to get a sense for what it is, although it looks really pretty. Dan did a fantastic job capturing the essence of it in a very fast review. Really beautifully done, Dan. I just wanted to let everybody know. If you're interested in Havilandi, or you're just interested in seeing a really, really just spot on perfect, it's how I would do review videos if I did traditional videos. One more. Totally Tabled. Shaggy did a very, very cool list. If I could only have one board game from every year. Starts in 1995, goes all the way up to the present, and goes through, I'll say he kind of cheats a little bit because he does honorable mentions, and almost this one, but it has to be that one. But still, it's a fantastic list. He talks really, really eloquently and sharply about a bunch of games, some of which I'm sure you haven't heard of. And I enjoyed the video so much that I went into the comments on that video and said, hey, here's my list. And I did the same thing. One game from every year from 1995 to the present. And so you get double duty. You get Shaggy's excellent list, and you can see my list too if you check that out. Link down in the show notes. Links for everything I'm talking about today, folks, are down in the show notes. But anyway, that's it for videos. Now let's talk about new games I found on Board Game Geek. First of all, we've got Chronicles of Light, Darkness Falls. And wow, I do not know where this thing came from. It's from a relatively new designer, Pam Wells. She did previously this Blob Party, which I've heard good things about. I recall, I think Grant was raving about it in a Grant's Greatest Games not too long ago. And anyway, though, this is not a party game, unlike Blob Party. This is a cooperative game where you get 4 Disney heroines, Moana, Violet from The Incredibles, Maid Marian, you know, from the old cartoon from the 60s, 70s, and Belle from Beauty and the Beast, all working together to stop the spread of darkness on a cooperative modular game board. So you're going to have a different world to adventure in every time. It looks really great, and I'm sure Jen and I are going to be very, very excited for that. Also, I didn't know about this when I covered Navoria, or Explorers of Navoria, but they've got an expansion in the works, Forgotten Lands. And my only complaint about Navoria I had was, boy, I wish it would just have a little bit more, just a few more things, because it is very gateway, and I'd love to see it dig to the next level. It looks like Forgotten Lands takes it to the next level because it adds, you know, asymmetric starting powers and unique starting equipment, a bunch of new cards, a new worker placement spot, and a whole bunch of different variations of variable objectives. I mean, the base game already did a lot with ensuring that you're going to get unique play every time you play because of all the wide variety of randomly selected objectives, but now there's even more of them. They appear on the end of the exploration tracks and all over the place. So I was very, very impressed and very excited for more Navoria, which, by the way, is not guilty of art plagiarism. See my earlier comments. Okay, next up, this really surprised me. Lichita, an older title, I think from the first decade. It was one of the first games Jen and I played, and it was maybe one of the first games when I got into the hobby, whatever now, 15 years ago, that made me realize, wow, a game could be really good, and yet at the same time really terrible for 2 players. And that's kind of what I thought about Lichita back when I played it a decade or so ago, but it's getting a reprint with new art. The core, area control gameplay is still there and looks very, very sharp, but it's got an expansion's worth of content, and I'm hoping these expansions really take to the next level for 2 players. It's got new types of buildings you can build, politics cards, I don't know what that means, and different terrain tiles. Hopefully all that stuff combined will make it as good for 2 as it was for higher player counts, because of course that was kind of the norm back in the day, that 2-player was never high priority. But these days, oh, it's a 2-player board game renaissance, folks. Anyway, what else? Oh, Wine Cellar. Now, this is from, I think, first-time designer Andrew Stiles, although he does have a fairly popular board game podcast called Tabletop Submarine, which you might want to check out. But anyway, congratulations, Andrew. You've gone from media person to actual designer because Wine Cellar is coming from 25th Century Games. And I gotta say, that's what really it's one of 2 things that drew me towards this. 25th Century Games, I always want to check out their stuff. But then the other thing, art by Vincent Dutray. Yes, I am shallow. A really great artist will pull me in, and I cannot wait to see beautiful wine bottle art done by Vincent Dutray. Now, the gameplay itself sounds neat too. Apparently, I think you're either auctioning or drafting for bottles, but then you have to arrange them on the shelf, not based on their vintage, but based on the order that they will be consumed. Which I don't know anything about wine. I assume that's a wine thing to do, but overall it sounds pretty cool. And again, it's got art by Vincent Dutray. Okay, this one surprised me. Power Hungry Pets. Now this is from the folks who do Exploding Kittens, and it looks like a beat-for-beat remake of Love Letter. And but now, instead of palace intrigue, trying to get the letter to the princess, past the guards and all that, it's a bunch of cute, adorable, anthropomorphized animals, in a power struggle with king cat and all kinds of stuff. The art looks super charming, no surprise there, considering the publisher. And here's my hope, that. I've played a few different variations of Love Letter over the year, like the Batman one and whatnot. I hope they introduce some new stuff that is animal specific, like how do cats function different than dogs? Maybe it'll just be a one-for-one remake, in which case, hey, I'd rather play it because it looks adorable than regular Love Letter, but maybe there's some new stuff. What else have I got? Oh, Quiet House. This really pulls me in, mostly because I love cooperative games with limited communication. The story here is we are all a bunch of ghosts. And because we're ghosts, we can't directly talk to each other, even though we're all working together to try to get the layout of the house perfect for our own secret objectives. But we don't win unless everybody achieves their objectives, but we can't talk. So we have to watch what each other's doing and try to anticipate and intuit. Well, I'm trying to figure out what you're doing, you're trying to figure out what I'm doing. I love that idea, in part because I've already played it in another game, Decorum, and I would love to see a new, different take on the idea. But if you already have Decorum and you love that, you're in luck, folks. Decorum Moving Out just got announced as well. Decorum is fantastic. I did a video for it already. And it looks like this has a bunch of really cool stuff. You know, obviously a bunch of new challenges. I assume it's an extension of the campaign from the original, but new features too, like moving boxes, bubble wrap, vehicles. You have to stack stuff on top of your vehicles in addition to everything else. And yeah, it's such a fantastic game. Oh, and by the way, I don't know if I ever mentioned this. I talked about when I covered Decorum back in the day that I could not wait for the app to show up that gives randomly generated challenges. Apparently that app has come out now and it's very, very good. So just a follow-up to that also. So anyway, this is a good week if you are a limited communication co-op fan like me. What else? Oh boy. Don't tell Jen about this, folks. She's going to be very excited when she discovers My Shelfie, the dice game. My Shelfie, oh, there she is down there. She literally just heard me say that. I was not prepared for that, folks. I'm kind of standing up on a steep thing here, so that was exciting, and I did not want her to know. It was going to be a surprise when I got it, but it's a roll and write of My Shelfie. It's a remake of an earlier game called Penky from Simone Luciani. But Jen loves My Shelfie. Like I said, I think before I almost fell to my death that it was in Jen's top 10 of the year. So a roll and write of it, that's something we have to check out. Okay, My Shelfie, the roll and write. And then, Viking Route. Now this one is very interesting, folks. It has a group of designers that are very, very interesting to me. One of the co-designer, the guy who worked with Reiner Knizia on Witchstone, but he's also done a bunch of Deckscape games, Barbarians, Mysthia, and Iacon. There's a group of designers on this. I should have written their names down. They've got a bunch of games between them, a bunch of which I've already seen and been impressed by. And probably most importantly is the Faceless, a game I covered a few years ago, which was so cool. And this is basically a spiritual sequel to the Faceless. This is a game where we are cooperatively trying to navigate a Viking ship through a fantastical world, going on all kinds of adventures. But here's the deal. We manipulate the ship's direction by manipulating the wind. The wind is represented by magnets. Yes, the ship is a little compass on the board, and as we move magnets around to represent the wind, it forces the compass to go in different directions. This was brilliant in the Faceless, although the Faceless was more of kind of like a gateway game, all about, kids dealing with spooky Stranger Things type shenanigans. Now it's about Vikings, and it looks to be much bigger and heavier with special powers for the ship and stuff like that. So I'm very, very excited. And then the last one, folks, the last one I've got to talk about is a Solstice, although it's spelled funny, S-O-L-S-T-I-S. Now, why am I interested in this? Because Bruno Cathala is teaming up with Corentin Lebrat. You know who Bruno Cathala is, I know that, but Corentin was one of the co-designers on Far Away, which was another game that made it into my wife's top 10 of the year, and I thought it was brilliant too. He's also the designer on Draftosaurus, which was a fantastic game also. So he's a designer to watch. He's working with one of the OGs who always produces solid designs. And what is this one about? Well, it uses card mechanisms from Hanafuda cards, which I don't know what that means. I know Hanafuda cards are these beautiful floral, I think they're Japanese card system. So anyway, they're taking ideas from there. It is a card drafting game trying to make a landscape. And if I wasn't drawn in by the designers, this one line from the description really caught my attention too. It was, optimize your landscape according to your opponent's choices. Now here's what I hope that means. I love the idea of a game where I don't pick my objectives, my opponent picks objectives for me that I have to complete. I don't know if that's what this is, or if it's just more about, hey, I've just got to auto-adjust based on what you're doing during the draft. Who knows? It's a Bruno Cathal game. It's probably going to have some meanness in it, unfortunately, which is too bad. But still, I'm interested in Solstice. And phew, that was it, folks. We have got another episode in the bag. I've got to get editing this, so I'm going to head back down to the RV and then post this. And then Jen and I, oh, I'm very excited. We're going to start playing some Aeon's End. New Aeon's End. Oh, man. Aeon's End, my top 20 of all time. I'm always excited for more, and you'll be seeing it on the channel soon, which is why you might want to subscribe. You know, you can subscribe and, check out if you want to see that Strokes Ramble. Oh, and by the way, there's the playlist with all of the videos that I just talked about and the links for the games down in the show notes. That's how it is, folks. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Bye-bye.